You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcasts. Keep up with the latest episodes by downloading the Podbean app or stream episodes via our social media accounts. Search for Let's Talk Trio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This episode is sponsored by StudentAccess. StudentAccess, the leader in Trio software. StudentAccess is an online database solution that allows Trio programs to track their students' information, connect with students by text messages, streamline the APR, and work from anywhere, all online, with automatic updates for changes from the Department of Education. Their technical support team includes former Trio staff and has over 50 years of combined experience working with Trio. Make it easier to focus on your priority, the students. For more information and to request a free demo, visit their website at www.studentaccess.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-801-1232. That website again is www.studentaccess.com or 1-800-801-1232. Be sure to share your favorite episodes on your social media by tapping that share button. This is a great way to support the podcast. Now here's your host, Juan Rivas.
Thank you, Amelia, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, listener, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Trio. This is Season 7, Episode 5. I am your host, Juan Rivas. Thank you for tuning in, downloading, and streaming from your favorite podcast platform. Before we begin, some announcements. Heads up, Trio community, the Council for Opportunity in Education's 2025 Policy Seminar is coming up on Sunday, March 16th through Wednesday, March 19th at Washington, D.C. Go to COE's website to look at registration details. The link is provided on the podcast description. With constant changes happening at the presidential level and impacting Trio programs, now is the time to advocate for Trio. Make sure you reserve your spot today. The 2025 Trio Student Access and Success Conference hosted by North Carolina Central University is happening Thursday, April 10th through Saturday, April 12th. The Trio Student Access and Success Conference is a 3-day student development conference designed to provide Trio and accessibility scholars with the opportunity to experience community engagement, academic and personal development, networking, and overall enrichment. Visit the conference website for more information and to register. The link is provided on the podcast description. In today's episode, we have Paulia D. Williams, who is the Gamecock Guarantee Coordinator for the Trio Opportunity Scholars Program at the University of South Carolina. Paulia is on the podcast to share her life experience, her Trio journey, and so much more. Coming up in just a bit, Paulia D. Williams. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Rosario Riley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, NOSOTROS Education Center, TheTrioStore.com, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles, and StudentAccess. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the podcast. Head on over to Patreon and search for Let's Talk Trio. Choose one of 4 patron levels. You can support this podcast for as little as $1 a month. If you own a business that serves the Trio community and want to sponsor this podcast, we have different sponsorship packages available. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast business PayPal account. Our business handle is @Let'sTalkTrio. Your support helps lift Trio voices. If you would like to nominate a participant, staff, advocate, or alumni to be on the podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Again, a great episode featuring Paulia D. Williams, Gamecock Guarantee Coordinator for the Trio Opportunity Scholars Program at the University of South Carolina. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hi, Trio Nation. My guest on the Let's Talk Trio podcast is a Gamecock Guarantee Coordinator for the Trio Opportunity Scholars Program at the University of South Carolina. She obtained her Associate of Arts in General Studies from Spartanburg Methodist College, her Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication from the University of South Carolina, and her Master of Education in Higher Education Administration from Columbia College. Originally from Union, South Carolina, she is the epitome of a Southern girl. She enjoys anything monogrammed, drinking cider year-round, and cheering on for the USC Gamecocks. She loves crafting and spending time with her husband and son in her free time. Welcome to the podcast, Paulia D. Williams. Paulia, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Thank you for getting that from our Trio website. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I kind of had to cheat a little bit. I was looking up some information, but all great information that people should know. So, Paulia, once again, we are very honored to have you on here and very excited to talk on the podcast.
I am honored to be here. I've been wanting to be on Let's Talk Trio for like 2 years now, so I am excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we're awesome. We're very excited to have you. How are things in South Carolina right now?
Oh, South Carolina. I think I was thinking about this earlier today when I ran out for lunch. South Carolina's always confused. It's cold this week. This weekend it was raining, and a few weeks ago we got snow, which is not a real thing here. And when I say snow, there was like a slight dusting and everything was shut down. So South Carolina, always a little confused on the weather front.
That must have felt strange to have snow in South Carolina. How did people react, or what was some of your reactions to the snow?
Oh my goodness. So when snow comes in South Carolina, everything literally shuts down. The university closed like halfway through the day. My son's school was closed. My husband drives trucks, so they were still like trying to figure out, do we go out? Do we not go out? So it gets a little bit chaotic when snow comes. I just stay at home, and this was Grayson's, my son, his first time seeing like snow and could play in it. So we were pretty excited. Yeah.
That is awesome. So aside from the snow, what is something you would highlight about your state to a visitor?
Okay. So South Carolina is we've got the best of both worlds. Primarily, if you drive 2 hours from Columbia, South Carolina, where I am, you could be in the mountains. And that's if you're driving upstate. But if you go to the low country or the coast, you're right there by the beach. So you can do both things. Probably not in the same day, but if you plan a trip, mountains and beach, vice versa.
That is magnificent. So it is evident. So I was looking over at your LinkedIn page. I looked over at your webpage at the university. You are a very loyal fan and supporter of the University of South Carolina. As a fan of USC, what sports do you support?
It's funny that you ask. I'm really not a sportsy person, but I am a Gamecock fan.
Okay.
And here lately, I think I've been looking at our women's basketball team more and more. They're always in the spotlight. And of course, you can't mention USC or Gamecocks or Carolina without thinking football. So I'm one of those people that I always try to like remember the score so I can have some chatting points for students, but I don't know what's going on with any of it.
So it sounds like you're a burgeoning sports fan in the USC, but overall you just love the campus.
Correct.
All right, I love that. So what is it about the USC campus that you love the most?
So I would have to say the horseshoe. And when you get back to the weather, like you can find people studying on the horseshoe, people watching. There could be a bride to be having her whole wedding photo shoot outside on the horseshoe. You're really going to see a lot. I enjoy people watching, so that's why I like to do it.
That is awesome. So for those who are not familiar, what is the horseshoe? Can you describe it a little bit for the audience?
Yeah, the horseshoe kind of is the heart of campus. It's your green space. It has your historic buildings. There are trees that have a lot of history. We have hand-laid bricks. And so you could trip up when you're walking, but it's okay because you're tripping up on some history. Everybody knows that you look around, you look down at the brick like, oh man, you got me. But that's really the heart of campus, and we really enjoy it.
That's awesome. In the intro of the podcast, I had shared with the audience that you enjoy crafting. How did this interest develop for you?
Well, It really started when I was younger. My mom was a little bit creative, so it started with scrapbooking and then to jewelry and just making little designs here and there. I probably dated myself like on Word and Paint, all of those old PC design softwares. But now I primarily do a lot of Cricut cutting machine type things.
Hmm.
I had a craft room when we moved here. But my son has since taken over the craft room. It has like a toy chest, one of
Ah,
those arcade basketball games, any toy you can think of. So my craft space has been taken over, but I still find some time to do some creative things here and there.
that is awesome. Can you share with the audience what little bits of crafting you still do?
What's nice is I'll get to do something for my son at school. It was 100 days of school. So, of course, being the extra mom that I am, we printed like 100 days of school. Then we put like 100 stars on the shirt. So usually it's
Wow,
something school oriented.
that's awesome. Can we rewind the clocks just a little bit, Paulia? Can you tell us about your upbringing? What was your family dynamic like?
Well, it's just me, my mom, and my dad. I'm an only child.
Only child.
Um,
All right.
Yes, I had I had cousins, older cousins, and a few cousins my age, but it was primarily just me. My parents are a little bit older. They're traditional. We were always in church on Sundays, and I'm trying to replicate that for my son now, which is nice. But they just always encourage me. As a matter of fact, I probably talked to them about 20 minutes ago. I'm like, hey, let's FaceTime, see your grandson, chit chat about the
Mhm.
day, and then we're gonna say goodnight. So we're pretty close.
Right on. How would your family describe you?
Ooh, I don't know if I want them to describe me, but one of the first things they probably say, my dad says, "Man, you are bossy." Like my goodness. But I don't take bossy in a negative manner. I take it as a positive compliment because I'm probably just gonna say, "Hey, could you help me with this? Let's do this." I kind of, nudge people into it. Probably talkative and determined. That's how I think they describe me.
Wow, that's awesome. Those are good descriptions of you, I think. Talk about your early experience with education. Was it something you gravitated toward or something that you felt you had to do?
I would have to say it's something that I gravitated to. Going back to being the only child, it kind of gets a little teensy bit lonely when you're at home. So school is where I got to see my friends and again, watch other people
Hmm.
engage and interact with each other. And I just remember elementary school honor roll, participated in some talent shows, middle school, still doing those same things. But then I just remember math got really hard in middle school. That's all I remember.
I think math gets a little bit hard for a lot of us, right? Once we start getting into the algebras and all of that. I'm
Like,
also sensing a pattern. You like to people watch or you like to see how people socialize. Is that something that
mhm.
kind of drew your interest?
Yes, I think it's like, okay, so my parents are older, so I'm in the house and like we're watching the news, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh man, who wants to watch 7 o'clock news as an elementary school student? Well, I had
No.
to because that's what we were doing. But
Yeah.
I think when I got to see everyone else like interact and engage, it was always pretty fun. And I said, oh, I,
Hmm.
I want to be in that. Like, how do I get into this? That's probably what I'm doing, just figuring out how I can get myself into the mix.
That's awesome. I love that. Um, what did your parents think about education? Was it something that they always encouraged you to do?
Yes, most definitely. When I think about education, I think about my mom going to high school, getting a technical certification in childcare. And then I think about my dad who went to high school for about 12 years, but was 1 or 2 credits short of graduating. And with that, he kind of just transitioned into the workforce. And as he got older, he had his family with my mom and myself. But he was always that person that said, education's one of those things that people can't take from you. So if you have the opportunity, just make sure you take advantage of it and get all the education you can. I can remember countless times my parents, specifically my dad, telling me that.
Wow. So it sounds like your parents really laid the foundation of you to continue in education, but just continue pursuing it if that's the option that you wanted to go to.
Yes, they had no clue what any of this stuff was like, but they're just
Right,
like,
right.
they're like my cheerleaders. They're like, you go, you got this. So
That is
that's
awesome.
always great.
Phenomenal. How did you prepare for your transition to high school? Because for a lot of students, right, they're in elementary and middle school and they're getting a little bit nervous about transitioning to high school. What was that experience like for you?
I think I was really ready for it.
Oh,
How our school works in my hometown is it's elementary school, it's middle school, and then there's junior high school. So those
hmm.
are three different experiences. So it kind of like eases you into the transition because we were at junior high, we'd hang out, we had our different lunches. It was kind of really modeled after what high school life would be. So I
Hmm.
think I was pretty ready. I knew some students from church or from Girl Scouts and those things, and they kind of just showed me the ropes when I got there. I literally remember showing up and I saw someone from church and I was like, hey, girl, can you show me where this is? And she showed me around. So since then, I was ready for the adventure, I guess we call it.
That's awesome. So it sounds like really you were ready to jump in and get to see what this high school life was about. Can you talk
Yes.
about your high school experience and what do you remember the most?
Okay. What I remember the most is number one, I had a lot of different hairstyles. So
Mm.
that's neither here nor there. There's like braids, there's curls, there's
Uh-huh.
like the evolution of hair.
Do we have
But beyond,
photographic evidence, Paulia? Is that what we could?
oh, there may be a photo or two, but I think I've like hidden them all on social
Gotcha.
media. It's like no one can see those. But what I think about is extracurriculars the most. I did honors classes. I did the things like you were supposed to do, those checklist items,
Oh, for
but
sure.
I just really remember the extracurriculars sticking out the most to
Hmm.
me.
What type of extracurriculars did you do? What were you
Uh,
participating in?
Probably too many according to my school counselor at that time. Um, I did yearbook, and yearbook was an actual class that you had
Mm.
to take. I did marching band, even though I didn't march, I was on the front ensemble playing percussion style instruments. And then I started to kind of get into JROTC, and whatever I do, I got to be like overly involved. So that was a
Wow.
thing. And then I remember morning announcers, and those were kind of like my things.
You were being pulled
and
in.
and theater.
Oh my
So
gosh, theater.
it was a lot.
You were being pulled in various different directions. How did you find a balance to it, to all that?
Um, I really don't know, but I do know I really enjoy being busy. I like to like always see that I'm doing something. I don't know if there's like a trauma response to like being an only child. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to make sure you have friends and people and things to do. But that's kind of always been my thing.
Has all of that experience being in extracurricular curricular activities, has that taught you anything?
Yes, I am learning now as I transition more into making sure that I'm there for my family, that sometimes you have to say no.
Oh
But
yeah.
at that time, I didn't say no. I said yes to everything.
Well, yeah, being young, you want to just say yes to everything and let the
hmm
experiences come in. And then you get that feeling of overwhelmness, and then you're like, well, I can't say no to this. I agreed to do it.
hmm
Did you get involved? So we covered that you got involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. Um, which one would you say you devoted more time to, or you felt like you had more of a pull toward?
I would probably have to say yearbook. I ended up being editor my senior year. There was this rule that you couldn't officially take the class when you were a freshman. So I
Hmm.
like volunteered all my time to prove like, hey, put me on this staff. So I did yearbook in middle school as well. So it kind of just transitioned. I was like, hey, how can I get involved? Let's do this. And I would just kind of hang around with um the yearbook advisor, and that's pretty much history.
Wow. About when did you start thinking about college? Like that would be an opportunity for you, or something that you wanted to do?
Like I can remember going to college fairs in high school. Like we took a trip to our neighboring town, which is like a larger city. And
Hmm.
so we did this big college fair. but also like the friends that I had made, they were going to college a year after they had graduated. So it kind of felt like the norm, like that's what you do.
Sure,
So
yeah.
that's what I was preparing for.
Did you talk to anyone about your plan to attend college? Was it advisors, parents? Yeah, someone that you would talk to about your plan.
What's funny is when I go back to that school counselor, she was like, you're doing a lot of extracurriculars. Let's focus a little bit more on academics. And it's not that I
Uh-huh.
didn't focus on them. I just really like doing those other things. But I did
Sure.
what I should have done. I remember trying to make good grades, like always being on honor roll. Again, math was hard. I remember pre-calculus senior year. I couldn't tell you what pre-calculus is now, but don't tell my students that because I'm like, hey, you need to be in math 141. You're an engineering major. So all of those different things. But I remember telling my parents, so we fill out applications. We did a couple of visits and those things. And what else did we do? I remember there is like I work for the University of South Carolina, Columbia. Well, there
Hmm.
are system campuses all throughout South Carolina. So there's a system campus of the University of South Carolina in my hometown. And so if you didn't know how to complete your FAFSA, you could go to the local university and their financial aid person would help you out. So I can
Hmm.
remember like taking my mom down to the local university and it's just like, she's like, okay, how do we do this? I didn't know what any of it was.
Yeah.
So we kind of like just sit down and did those things. So there were helpful people around, which was really nice.
That must have felt overwhelming as a first generation college student to navigate that entire space. How did you balance that with your parents and with college representatives to really lay out a college plan?
I don't really know that there was a plan. It was kind of like blind leading the blind.
Oh, I gotcha.
If I saw my friends do it, I would do it too.
Uh-huh.
Like I can remember my best friend Taylor, her mom had attended college and she was like, "Girls, you need to do this." So we would go ahead and apply to these different colleges, write the essays, do what we were supposed to do. So I kind of just followed everybody. Like if it looked like they were doing what they should be doing, because their parents might have had experience. That's what we did.
That's awesome. What colleges made your list?
Ooh, what colleges made my list? I was really thinking about this. There was Winthrop University, there was the University of South Carolina Upstate, which is another
Hmm.
one of those system campuses for USC. And I want to say, I can't really remember any other ones. There's SMC, but I kind of like put it to the side because I was like, what is this? So but I knew one place that I wasn't going, and I
Uh-huh.
wasn't going to the system campus in my hometown because I felt as though I wouldn't get what I thought of as the collegiate experience if I were
Oh.
home and still working my job at Piggly Wiggly. Like I wanted to do something. Piggly Wiggly's a little grocery store here. Super
Oh,
fun.
you got okay, so it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I've heard it in movies. I'm not gonna
Yes,
lie to you. I've heard it in
it's
movies.
real.
It's real.
Yes. We
Wow.
wore shirts that said "I'm big on the pig." That was our uniform.
Uh,
So I knew I didn't
wow.
want to do that. So I
Yeah.
applied to those three places.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you seeking guidance to enhance your TRIO project's effectiveness and success? Look no further. NOSOTROS Education Center, NEC, is here to empower your TRIO project with expert consulting services. NEC's mission is to promote the effectiveness and impact of TRIO programs. Since 2003, NEC has specialized in providing professional development and in-service staff trainings, allowable cost services, for TRIO projects across the country. The team at NEC, with over 60 years of combined TRIO experience, offers customized workshops and seminars for project staff, compliance assessments, external evaluations, working on and submitting APRs, database customization and training, developments of policies and procedures manuals, and project implementation or reorganization services. Additionally, NEC has secured over $774 million in federal funding with a 92% success rate through their live and on-demand proposal workshops, assistance with data collection and review, detailed technical reviews, and comprehensive proposal development services. Join the hundreds of colleges, agencies, and TRIO projects across the country who benefited from NEC's expertise. NOSOTROS Education Center, your partner in TRIO's project success. Visit their website at nosotros.edu.org. Again, that's nosotrosedu.org.
And now back to the podcast.
So, and I'm just now learning. So you also had a part-time job, juggling a lot of responsibilities, going to school, and then balancing your extracurricular activities. Paulia, you must have been like exhausted from all of this.
I thrived from it, really.
Okay.
I really liked the interaction, working customer service, because you get to see people are talking to you. They're just like, it's a super small town. So people are like, are you Grace's daughter? Are you Paul's daughter? And I'm like, yeah, those are my parents, those type of things. So that was always nice. And my friends would come by and I'd be really excited that they came through my line on my shift, all of those different things.
That's awesome. Talk about the moment you graduated from high school. So this is the moment where you've got your cap and gown on, you're about to walk the stage. What was that moment like for you, and what did it mean for your family?
Oh my gosh. We were super excited. I had like a core group of friends, kind of like from each extracurricular. So I had my yearbook friends. We're super excited. My theater friends, my band friends. So we're taking pictures and we're excited, and everybody's going to different places. So we just really relished in the moment that, okay, we've done this. That's a check. Let's move on to part 2.
So the moment you graduated from high school, it must have felt like a momentous occasion. How did your parents help you celebrate that milestone for you?
I just remember we're a big picture taking family. So there's like grandma in photos, my aunt, my mom, everybody were just snapping pictures. And then afterwards, all my friends and I went out to dinner and like stayed out later than usual, and just really were just like, oh, like we're like pre-adults or something at that point.
Oh, that's so cool. So I'm going to ask you a question that's outside of this script, and I hope it's okay.
That's
But
fine.
how did that summer feel for you right before you entered college? Because a lot of students, they have that summer break or that summer between when they actually start college. What was that like for you? Did you get to really take advantage of that newfound freedom as a pre-adult? Yeah, kind of curious about how you spent your summer.
So of course I worked at Piggly Wiggly.
Of course.
I saved some of my money. They gave me a book scholarship, so I was super excited about that. Getting back to finances, I remember telling my parents, hey, this is how much I owe. It's probably just for like books or something. So my dad like kind of let me have that experience. It was like, you have a bank account, so I'll give you this book money or the rest of your bill money, which was probably like $500. And he's like, go write your check, I was like, oh, I'm writing my check. I paid my deposit. I saw where I'd be living. And I was like, okay, it's not too far away from home. So it was kind of like a prep period, like buy your dorm
Wow.
stuff, save a little money, those things.
That is awesome. Sounds like your family really helped you prepare before you entered college, and like how to navigate your finances, navigate everything that's about to be experienced. So awesome that we're gonna about that. It's a wonderful transition because we talked about your list of colleges earlier. You decided to attend Spartanburg Methodist College for your first 2 semesters or first 3 semesters, but you wanted to get your associates from there. Did you have a reason why you started there at SMC?
Yeah, let me tell you about it.
Yes, please.
Winthrop, my dream school, put me on a wait list. I now know when you get a small envelope, it's the we regret to inform you you're on a
Oh,
wait list. And I said, oh,
wow.
okay. And my best friend had got admitted into Winthrop, and we had planned to be roommates. So that kind of derailed everything. I was like, what is going
Yeah.
on here? And then again, I was waitlisted at the University of South Carolina Upstate.
Mhm.
So what I thought was the third choice on my list had now become the first choice because they wanted me. So
Yeah,
that's kind of we pivoted, and I was like, oh, I'm going to Spartanburg Methodist on a merit and academic scholarship because if you had above a 3.0, they kind of paid for a good bit of things. And
mhm.
I also, all those extracurriculars paid off. Um, they were doing a yearbook. They were bringing their yearbook back the very year I was coming that fall. And
Uh-huh.
so they were just like, we need help. We have no idea. And I was like, if anybody knows yearbooks, I know yearbooks.
That's got to be you. Yeah.
And they gave me a scholarship for it. And so that was nice. And I had my little own key to the yearbook lounge area. And I kind of like got to
Ooh,
run everything and be bossy. So it really worked out. So
cool.
that really made me believe that things align for the right reasons because who else would have helped them with their yearbook that year if I wasn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, you had the experience. You were the person chosen to do this. And I absolutely agree. I think paths are open and made for a reason, especially just so peeking ahead of your story of how everything aligned for you. Like, well, yeah, of course, this is how everything was supposed to play out.
Hmm.
Um, so what was that experience like for you at SMC? What did you like about it? What were your highlights?
5 points. My first dorm, I moved out probably within like 2 weeks. I liked my roommate, but being the only child that I am, I was like, oh, like this is a little too much roommate in a room. So it was more traditional style. So
Uh-huh.
probably with like 2 weeks in, I moved to the honors dorm across campus,
Uh-huh.
and they were apartment styled, and the only thing you shared was common space in the bathroom, and that really worked out really great for us. We all referred to ourselves as our room numbers. There was 331, who was Kathy. There was 332, who was Melissa. There was
Mm-hmm.
333, that was me. And then lastly, there was 334, that was Rebecca. I had moved in with three collegiate athletes. They all either ran cross country or played softball. And again,
Oh
I'm
wow.
not sports inclined. I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, this is so cute, friends. I'll come and support you because I don't play a sport.
So you were the cheerful person in the school. Okay, that is
Hmm.
awesome. And in terms of your SMC highlights, what did you enjoy about the campus or the institution itself? What did you like about it? What did it offer you?
It gave me the opportunity to get a collegiate experience, but not be too far away from home. I was 30 minutes away from home. So if I wanted to go home and have dinner over the weekend, or if I needed to take a flu shot or something, I was pretty near and my parents could get to me as well.
Mhm.
It gave me like that school within a school feel. I started out in a leadership university. Well, no, it wasn't called University 101. It was called SMC 101 at that time. So it was a freshman
Mhm.
experience class. It was about leadership development. And so I got in there, I met those people. Those were my people throughout the whole 2 years there. That was really nice. It was small enough to where you could get the experiences you needed, but it wasn't like an overwhelmingly large campus. So it kind of eased me into the collegiate setting. And I was appreciative of that because I still got those collegiate experiences, but I felt comfortable in the environment that I was in.
That's awesome. Did you have an idea of what type of program you wanted to be in or what type of career you were heading toward?
I think it kind of goes back to the creativity and
Hmm.
to morning announcers. Growing up in my church and going around, everyone would always say, "Oh, you're such a good speaker." So I took it to heart and I said, "We are going to become a reporter." And when you're getting your associates in general studies, you're just doing your core courses. So there was no real focus in reporting at that time. So I knew when I transferred that I would have to find a school that really had a pretty solid journalism program.
And I want to tell you, even after we met at the very start of the podcast, when we started doing the pre-show, and now you have a presence about you that really speaks TV reporter and communicator. Like you really have that aura of you have the ability to connect with people. So just wanted to say that's wow,
Thank
that's
you.
amazing. Um, you attended, so after SMC, you transferred to the University of South Carolina in Columbia after getting your associates. Was that always part of the plan?
Transferring was always a part of the plan
Hmm.
because I knew there was no real focus in my associates. It was kind of the point that with my SAT and ACT scores, they were a little bit rocky because I had no prep for any of those. I realize now, working with Trio, there's so many programs, there's so many things you could do as far as preparation. And
Hmm.
I never did any of it. I went in, I guess we could say blind each time. I was like, I know you're supposed to do this, so let's just go in here and take it. And those scores just weren't good, which is what caused me to be waitlisted for those schools.
Hmm.
So finishing at SMC and transferring was proof to myself as well as other institutions that I can do collegiate level work, even though my SAT and ACT scores show that maybe I would have a hard time doing that collegiate level work.
That's great. Talk about your experience at USC Columbia. What did you enjoy the most here?
Ooh, USC was so big. That's the number one
Yeah,
thing I can remember. And then also Columbia is the hottest place in South Carolina.
really?
And I was one of those people that like wore jeans year round. I had to like change
Oh
my
gosh.
wardrobe
Uh-huh.
when I went there. And um in the beginning it was really a bit of culture shock, transfer shock. I realize there's a word for this now. Working in higher ed, I was like, what is this? This is not my small, lovely little
Mm,
campus where I'm
right.
thriving. So that took some getting used to. But luckily, I had a cousin there. We're the same age. She had gone to USC, just like her mom, and she was already there before me. So she kind of showed me the ropes. So I was appreciative of her. Her friends became my friends. So she kind of, showed me around and got me acclimated to the campus. And then I started to get involved because it wouldn't be me if I didn't get involved. So
Oh yeah.
I'd been a university ambassador at Spartanburg Methodist, and I was like, oh, I want to give tours here too. So I tried out and I got in and I was like, oh, you're a tour guide. Back in my time in college, if you were an ambassador, tour guide, or an orientation leader, you were like the cream of the crop at college
Yeah.
with your
Best
khakis
of the
and your
best.
polo shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was excited about. And honestly, I think that experience is kind of where a lot of things shifted for me as
Hmm.
far as career wise, because someone who is first gen and hadn't had a lot of experience outside of her hometown and the town next to her hometown, you don't realize that there are more career paths than teacher, lawyer, doctor, reporter, these things. So at that time, I didn't realize. I was like, what do these people do that that work with
Yeah.
us? I had no idea what student affairs, higher education was at all. So it was nice that I stumbled upon that experience.
That's awesome. So working within USC or being a student within USC, you found a lot of career opportunities that your career could potentially blossom into other areas. Doesn't necessarily have to be like TV reporter or
Mhm.
anything like that, Pat. You were realizing there's a whole other world out there.
Yes, I remember when I discovered what a graduate assistant was. I
Oh,
was doing some leadership component, and I was like, "Who is this like cool older girl that says she goes to school here? Like, what is all this?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, she's in graduate school, and so she works with
Mm.
us." So I realized that's her assistantship now, and she's also going to school as well. So things were starting to finally make sense for someone who didn't know like the structure of a college and how things run and how people pursue higher education.
So that has me curious. When did you learn about Trio, or what program did you learn about first?
Okay. I now, in hindsight, realize a lot of my friends that were in ambassadors were in trio, but
Mm,
everybody really didn't know how to describe it. They were just like, oh, like I'm in a support program. It's like,
hmm
okay, they're just like, we have to do these scholarly engagement points. And I was like, what is all of this stuff? But it was very similar to what I had done at SMC. So I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like what we did here. It was like a living learning community type of situation.
Sure, sure.
So now I realized they were in trio. And at my institution, they don't call trio student support services. They call it OSP, which is the Opportunity Scholars Program. Our previous director didn't want a stigma attached to the program, and he didn't want students to feel as though they couldn't be proud of being in the program. So he kind of mixed the name up and made them scholars. And so that's kind of how things have gone on. So that's probably why I didn't know what it was. But I realized that in hindsight now they were in trio. So this is great.
Wow. So I've got to take a pause here because I've interviewed several folks from all across TRIO programs all over the United States, and I keep hearing that. So McNair and Upward Bound are two programs that are distinct, but it always is TRIO Student Support Services that either adopts a different name. They have the grant as TRIO SSS, but they adopt different names. Like at Colorado State University is known as, or was known as, the Academic Advancement Center. And then to hear that this is the Opportunity Scholars Program at USC, how does that land for you, like knowing or learning that various TRIO SSS programs go by different names?
It stresses me, I'll tell you that much. From
Yeah, oh, I'm
um,
sorry.
from a state standpoint,
Uh-huh.
being involved in our state organization, like now everything has all come together. It makes sense. So
hmm
I've probably spent the last 2 years um, training everyone to say, yes, it's Opportunity Scholars, but it's trio. So if I can say trio, at least they know that they're under the umbrella and they're connected to other things, because a good bit of the alumni in the past, they're just like, what's trio? And I was like, it's OSP. So we're kind of getting people into the mindset of you're connected to other people. This is not a lone program. You have like
Yeah.
nationwide connections. You're a trio alum with millions of other trio alums.
100%. Total tangent. I had a guest on here who didn't realize they were in the TRIO program until after they graduated. And when they made that connection, there this was several years later, and they were sharing it on the podcast. They're like, "Oh yeah, somebody told me I'm part of the TRIO program." I'm like, "Wow, so you didn't realize that till years later?" He's like, "Yeah, years later, I didn't realize I was part of the TRIO program." So blows my mind.
Yeah, many people do not, but that's what we're doing now. We're connecting all the dots for folks.
That is awesome. At this point of your college career, did you have an idea of what life post-college would look like for you?
Going with the plan that I had for myself, I
So,
would get my reporter reel together. I had reporter headshots, I had my reporter reel, and I was applying for different jobs. And I kept getting, sorry, um, this position has been filled, or you will
mm,
not be moving to the next round. And I moved back to my hometown for about 2 months. And
mhm,
then I was like, I can't be here. Like, no, what can I do? So I was a university ambassador giving tours, and one of the ladies that worked in the office says, hey, Paulia, I know you're back at home and you'd like to be in the Columbia area. How about you interview for this job? So she kind of like prepped me through that process.
mhm.
And I got the job. I moved back to Columbia, and I haven't done a lot in reporting since then. However, that kind of started my higher education career, that specific role.
Wow. Did you expect to go to graduate school for a master's program?
Definitely not.
Really?
I was like, look, I did this high school thing. I did the associate's degree. I got my bachelor's now. What
Yeah.
do I need anything else? But then I
hmm
learned you do need more things. I would look for other opportunities around campus, and I would always see preferred qualifications, master's level. And I was like, oh, so that's what's going to stop me here. And since I was so new, like there wasn't like years of experience that would go along with it. So I was like, oh, I'll have to gain the experience with the educational route. So I started to take some non-degree seeking courses, just me and one of my coworkers. We were just like, we're going to do this, this
Yeah.
grad school thing.
Mhm.
And we took the classes, we made A's, and at that time, I thought I still wanted to go the communications route. And I was like, I don't know. I think I like student affairs. So I took 2 student affairs courses, and I couldn't go to graduate school and work full time to support myself. So I learned about another program across town that offered a student affairs degree for working professionals.
Mhm.
So I started to do that, and it was probably the best decision I've ever made. One of them.
That is wonderful. So it sounds like the limitations placed by certain jobs saying, oh, you have to have a master's in this, push you in that direction to obtain your master's. Because yeah, sorry, Paulia, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm listening.
Uh, because you went from would still want to be a reporter, want to do that, and then your career shifted to higher education. Like that's quite a shift.
Mm-hmm. But I think what's been really nice over the years, all of my supervisors have like worked some type of communications component
Mm,
into my job. And I
mm,
think that is really a highlight or kudos to the supervisor realizing like what you're really good at, what you're passionate about. And even though that's not your full-time role, they're still able to give you an outlet on your job. So that's when, social media started to take on. And so I was like, hey, we need an Instagram. And so we got an Instagram. I got student workers. We would plan our content calendars, all of those things, create brochures, which is I was used to doing from yearbook stuff. So it started to work out, and like I still get to do some of those things now too. So that's nice.
that's wonderful. Now, you've also held some positions, such as a college advisor for middle school students in the TRIO Talent Search College as a college advisor, and you've also held positions in the TRIO Upward Bound program as an enrichment instructor. What did those jobs teach you, and what did you learn about yourself?
I realized Trio was the place to be at that time. I finally became acquainted with Trio through one of my graduate school friends. I was like, hey, like, what do you do? And again, similarly to my friends that were in undergrad, everybody always had a hard time describing what Trio was because
Uh-huh.
it really isn't your traditional 9 to 5. Like there's a lot that goes into the work. So they would kind of give
Yes.
me some hints here and there. But
Mm,
after I received my master's degree, I applied and started to work for Talent Search. That was really good for me going out, doing different sessions, really enjoying the middle school students. And then I got to fill my time, of course. So I was able to work part-time with the Upward Bound program, doing
wow.
enrichment lessons on Saturdays. So I got to know their students too. And at that point, that's when I realized I wanted to work with a program that had a little bit more face time with students so you can kind of watch them grow and develop. And
Mhm.
then I started to work for SSS as a U101 instructor. And at that point, I was like, I like this SSS, this OSP, whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah.
when the Gamecock Guarantee Coordinator role came open, that's when I was like, this is where I really want to be. And what's so nice about that is our trio program is really unique in the way that we have set faculty for our students who are primarily first gen as well. And they teach for our program. And there's meetings, there's lots of interventions for students because we create the community within a community. And
Mhm.
then there's also the Gamecock Guarantee component, which is our TRIO program working with financial aid to give our TRIO students a scholarship. So primarily my role is to work with the Gamecock Guarantee Assistant Director in financial aid just to kind of make sure students are doing what they're supposed to do to maintain their grants, awards, those things. So that's what's really nice and
Awesome.
unique.
And we're going to talk, yeah, we're going to talk more about your current position in a little bit. I'm glad that you gave the audience a nice little highlight about what you currently do. Um, but I want to reel it back a little bit. There was a point in your career and also completing your master's program where you were balancing between both, no? Like that must have been really tiring or exhausting. You were just super busy, go, go, go.
I loved it. I only started to slow down after we were like, okay, we want to start a family.
Mm,
Let's do this. And then after I had Grayson in 2021, I was like, I think it's time to hang up my upward bound time
hmm.
because I need my Saturdays to be at home. So
Yes, yes.
that's what's really nice. But still really good friends with all of the directors and those people in those programs because we work really close at USC. So that's nice.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in the master's programs for students who are curious about entering a master's program? What were some of the highlights there?
Highlights. It was an accelerated program. I was done in a year. And typically a lot of programs are 2 years. But what made it unique is each Saturday and Sunday, about 2 weekends out of a month, we would go to class all weekend, have our papers and stuff due throughout the week, read what we were supposed to read, do all these different things. And then there was like this little lunch break where we all, okay, hey guys, where are we going to lunch? So you get your lunch gang and you
Hmm.
go out and you lament about all of the papers you had to do and clean your house and I just have a good time. So that was kind of the reprieve when we were in our graduate program.
That's awesome. I know we talked a little bit about your career shift, but I want to just expand a little bit more about how you really found your path in trio, because I find that fascinating when trio professionals are talk about initially, like they had this idea of a career, and then not that it was sideswiped by trio, not at all. It was more inspired. You felt more connected
Mhm.
to people in the trio program. Did those experiences lead up to where you currently are?
Yes, what I would have to say is when I worked at the visitor center, my role was the manager for campus visits. So I coordinated campus visits for prospective students and their families. And that was always great because we got to work with students. So we would supervise our student employees. And I just realized now students will hang out in my office and come by
Mhm.
and tell me what's going on, in their lives and those things. And I was like, oh, I really like this. I wish I could do more of this. And
Mhm.
so that's when I realized I really I love my middle school students. I love my high school students and upward bound, but I think working with collegiate level students is really where I want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since 2013, you've worked at the University of South Carolina. Can you share your experience working with USC? What do you love about that campus?
USC, there's always something going on. There's always some committee to join. They're always doing something. And I've really made a lot of different friends across campus over the years and just really appreciative to keep having new positions to go to and learning more about the different functional areas of higher ed because we'll have to collaborate with a department. I'm like, oh, I never knew this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you talk about your current position and what do you enjoy most about it?
Okay, what I enjoy most about my current position is downright the students. The
Mm,
students keep me youthful. They're so much fun. We have a lounge where the students kind of hang out between class. And my direct supervisor, his love language is feeding students. Like you got to be fed. So there's
yeah,
snacks and stuff throughout. And the
wonderful.
students kind of just hang out in between class. And it really works if they're a commuter or they're an upperclassman and they live off campus. They know they have a little place to come to. But primarily, my role is to advise students. So we're special populations advisor because the special population is TRIO, our first gen Pell eligible students.
Mhm.
Um, I teach U101, which is our freshman seminar class. And I'm able to coordinate a study abroad experience for students each year. We were going to Ireland this year, but sadly, that trip did not make. We only had 5 students deposit. But last year we went to Paris, and
Oh,
that
wow.
was my second year in the role, and we had record breaking participation. There were 33 students that we took to Paris. So
Wow.
that was a really big deal.
Hmm.
And overall, just helping out and collaborating with different campus partners just to ensure that our TRIO students know all the resources available on campus.
That is wonderful. It feels like you really fit into your role, and then it really speaks to you that it's just a good fit.
Yes.
What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
5 years. Hopefully, I get my own TRIO program
That'd be
in the
awesome.
future. That would be great. I've always played around with the idea of being a dean of students. Um, so I'm just always looking around to kind of like see, but I think this role has really been good with giving me the tools that I need to kind of go a little bit further, because this is my first time supervising professional and paraprofessional staff,
Oh, wow.
and that's new.
Yeah.
But luckily, the people that I work around make it a little bit easy for me, so that's always nice. But lots of first time doing things on this job. First time writing a micro grant, like all these little different things that we do.
I'm going to put you on the hot seat slash spotlight for a minute. What trio program would you like to be a director for?
SSS for sure.
SSS for sure. Right on.
Mhm.
So, like I've said earlier, you are very passionate about USC. What is it about that campus's energy that you just love so much?
I think it's primarily because Columbia is like a larger city. I'm from a
Hmm.
small town, so it's close enough to home, but it still gives that city feel. Like I don't have to drive 15 or 20 minutes to Walmart. We're a college town, and living in a college town is always entertaining. Like on certain weekends, when it's football season, you have to know when not to go near the stadium and all those things. Oh, it's parents' weekend. Let's not go downtown to the Vista. And I think
Uh-huh.
living in the college town um, really does that for me. And then working at the flagship institution in the state is pretty nice as well, and always leads to bragging points. So I just love it.
Absolutely. And I could totally relate coming to Colorado State University and working for CSU. I feel that kinship in that terms of like I love being in the energy and in the town and being able to just support an institution. So kudos to you and all of your great accomplishments. What advice do you have for new trio professionals? So these are folks that are coming into trio, barely getting to know this program. What would you say, or what's your advice?
I would always say, um, get involved in your state organization. But in addition to getting involved in your state organization, um, understand TRIO holistically. We are hosted by these universities and colleges. And so if you want to feel cemented within the collegiate environment, you're going to have to get involved so people know who you are and what your role is on campus. So whether that's a professional development committee, that's how I started off. I was like, hey, like I work outreach for middle schools, so I don't get a lot of face time with campus like I used to in my previous role. So I was like, let me do kind of volunteer some of my time so I know like what's going on campus,
Hmm.
be in the know a little bit more. And then from the state organization setting, once you really join or kind of really get involved in a state organization, you understand TRIO holistically.
Hmm.
And then always find a TRIO mentor as well. My TRIO mentor was my colleague that I shared an office with for 6 years. Dorlisa Damon went off to Ohio State. I'd say one of my best coworker friends. We worked in the office together for 6 years, sharing that space. And she really kind of explained a lot of Trio to me, and that's really, really helpful. She had been a state president in Ohio. She met lots of people. She'd done the policy seminar, all the things that, some of us new Trio professionals want to do. And I think having a solid mentor that understands Trio holistically is extremely helpful.
That is magnificent advice. What about advice for Trio students?
Trio students, please take every single opportunity that is offered. We are always, spamming students with email. Hey, there's a fellowship. Hey, there's a grant. There are really so many things that you can do on campus, and you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're only going to class and going back to your dorm room. Go out, get involved, apply for things. You may not get some things, but at least you put your name in the hat and just really see what you can make your experience to be.
I love that advice. I think students need to hear that often because they always feel shy about participating or putting themselves out there.
Mm-mm.
What are you currently reading, watching, or listening to?
Oh my goodness, I might need my notes for this one because I want to make sure
Go for it.
I get this right. So, listening to, I'm always into female rap. Always have been, just really love it. And there's like this, I guess, resurgence of female rap. Like it was the Little Kims and the people like that.
Oh,
But
sure,
now,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
now there's like Megan Thee Stallion, Lotto, and I realize that's what my students listen to, and they're always surprised when I'm like humming something. They're just like, you don't know that, and I was like, I do know that.
I
I
love that.
know.
That's how they keep us youthful, because we can kind of
Yes,
relate and
I'm always
transcend
like,
some.
sometimes I'm just a little bit shocked. I'm like, whoa, this is what they're okay, that's what they're saying now. But I always like to play a little bit coy, and because I'm really listening to the same things that they're listening to.
Right, right, right.
As far as podcasts, I listen to the Read podcast. That's with Crystal and Kid Fury, and they're all about pop culture, really into
Mm,
pop culture.
hmm
And also NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour. So I really
Nice.
like that one. So
Good.
those are my main two. And as far as books go, I'm always trying to do like self-development. So the last one I read was When Making Others Happy is Making You Miserable. So, it kind of talked about people pleasing and saying
hmm
no and starting to practice those different boundaries. And I think I really needed that because I find myself like I'm always available, like I'm too available for the students sometimes. So I don't want to be an enabler.
mm mm.
And I want to put the boundaries up to know, like, okay, now I've left, it's 5:30, I've left the campus. I'll get with you the next morning. We'll work some time in, all those different things.
I think that's important to do that self-care practice because I remember early in my career how open and available I was to my students when I first started. And I just remember feeling drained, like even going to work the next morning, I was like, oh, I'm still so tired. But
Hmm.
that's wonderful that you like learn to like really set a boundary about when work begins and when work ends.
Now
Uh,
it's a work in progress.
oh,
Still
okay.
haven't had got it all figured out, but we're working on it.
It took me, I will be honest with you. I'm in my early 40s and it took me a while to learn. It took me a while to learn. Um, Paulia, thank you so much for your time this morning or this evening. You have been an amazing guest. Thank you for being on here and sharing a little bit about yourself today.
Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I feel like this was long overdue.
Oh, yes.
I've always admired seeing you post about your podcast
Oh,
and
thank
just
you.
really happy to be a part of it. And then when I saw some of my South Carolina peeps on your podcast last year, I was like, oh my God, y'all made it to Let's Talk Trio. Like, I love this. And so I was super
That's
excited. And I
amazing.
was like, I have to follow behind Rod and Jim. They're kind of like our OGs in Trio. They know all things Trio, so it's always nice when they're out and getting involved in those things.
Well, now it's an honor on this end to add you to the list of South Carolina folks that have been on Let's Talk Trio. So I appreciate you so much. So we do have a tradition on the Let's Talk Trio podcast where we have the guest sign off. Do you care to do the honors?
I think I can. All right. So thank you so much, Juan. That is a wrap. We just finished an episode of Let's Talk Trio. Thanks for having me. I really love to uplift and, just talk about and advocate for Trio. I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I am on Instagram as Trio Pro Paulia. So that's TRIOPROPAULIA. That's kind of my work Instagram where I highlight my students and everything that our program is doing. So really love that. And so until next time, let's protect Trio because Trio works. I'm Paulia D. Williams.
Are you a participant, alum, or staff of a Trio program? Do you want your program highlighted? You or your program could be featured in an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Trio. Get a hold of us by going to our Facebook page or Instagram and send us a direct message. Search for Let's Talk Trio. We want to get your story to the public.
You just heard from our guest, Paulia D. Williams, Gamecock Guarantee Coordinator for the Trio Opportunity Scholars Program at the University of South Carolina. Thank you so much, Paulia, for being on the podcast and for sharing your Trio journey. Remember, if you would like to be on the Let's Talk Trio podcast or know a staff, advocate, participant, or alumni, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Rosario Riley, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, NOSOTROS Education Center, The Trio Store, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles. And StudentAccess. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can sponsor the Let's Talk Trio podcast in one of three ways. Become a monthly patron on Patreon. Our base level starts at $1 a month. Become a corporate sponsor. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast PayPal account. Our business handle is @Let'sTalkTrio. I'd like to take a moment to thank our honorary members of the Let's Talk Trio podcast, Roderick Chambers, Tony Ho, Scott Kendall, and Susan Cramp. The Let's Talk Trio podcast team is John Russell, audio engineer, music producer and composer, and post-production editor. Amelia Castañeda, script supervisor, marketing manager, social media manager, and producer. And myself, Juan M. Rivas, executive producer and host. Be sure to follow the Let's Talk Trio podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This episode was recorded Monday, February 17th, 2025. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.